Hello everybody, welcome to Trail Talk number, I think it's leg 17, coming out of Daleville, Virginia. This is around June the 6th, 2016, and I'm day 97 on my videos, if you want to go back and actually see the video log for it. Coming out of Daleville, well actually coming down into Daleville, I threw a picture in of me saluting at the appropriate time of my father-in-law's funeral that was occurring while I was hiking. He was a World War II vet, and he was getting a military burial, and at the designated time they were playing taps, and I stopped and rendered military honors for him in remembrance of his service. Now coming out into Daleville, there was I had a little bit of discouragement going on. I was still suffering from some of what ended up taking me off the trail, so I wanted to take an extra day there, and then there was some really bad rain. I think I ended up doing like maybe 2 full zeros, so like a Nero and 2 zeros or something before I left. I did go to the outfitter. I did send home my top quilt and got an adapter bag with some permethrin in it. I also bought some permethrin and treated my clothes while I was there during that period of time, and then this says I did a 6-day resupply. I don't think it worked out that far because this is when I had sat down before I ever went out and hiked and figured out how much food I needed based upon what Baltimore Jack was saying, and some other inputs I had off of not the trail journals, but White Blazes, for example, and it was a reminder for me to check my footwear. That looks like it says foodwear, but it's supposed to say footwear. I didn't do 6 days. Coming out of Daleville, you've got let's see, you've got places to resupply. Glasgow is one of the places that you can resupply. Buena Vista is another one. And then pretty much into Waynesboro, but it's 133.8 miles. Let's call it just 140 miles. So for me at this point in time, that's like 14 days to get to Waynesboro, because I'm kind of only doing 10, maybe 12 miles a day. We could maybe bump that up and call that, two 10-day resupplies for me, maybe, to be able to make that work. Some people can maybe do that all once, but that's a long haul. So I decided that I would probably go ahead and go into Glasgow to resupply. And so this leg, and since I did stay there the night and did my resupply, we'll call this leg this leg will go to Glasgow. But we may talk about a few little options after that. Okay, so everybody's got kind of a good overview. So Troutville, they were having their trail days. I talked about that. Once you leave Daleville and hike, it's kind of like you're kind of walking through like parks of a city. You can go up some rises and down, and you're going to come to Virginia 652. You're going to hear a lot of the town through here anyway, and it's not that bad of a hike, because that's a very pleasant hike. And then you'll start back up, and you're going to start your climb up. Your typical resupply. You got your weight, and then you're climbing. Came up to the shelter, and this shelter here. It's water. It goes into a cistern, and how it gets in the cistern is off of the roof. So the rainwater rains onto the roof and down to the cistern, and the water looked really nasty. So when they say treat, I'm not talking just like filtering it, but also maybe treat it with some chemicals. I decided to pass. I had still enough water, and so I kept on going. And got down to Wilson Creek is where I ended up staying the night. And this is important. This water here, it's 0.3 down. And whenever you're going to go 0.3 down a mountain, it's like, especially in Virginia, you're pretty much hiking down to the base of the mountain and coming back again. So I had water just right prior to that, and so I got my water a half mile before that, hiked into the shelter, and that did real well for me. And of course then on the outbound, I think if I remember right, I used pretty much all the water. for that night for cooking and everything. And so then there was a spring as I came out the next day. So the next day, once again, you're going to continue to climb and climb and climb. And then this is the first time here. This BRP stands for Blue Ridge Parkway, mile marker 97. And that's kind of the first time of many times you're going to pop out on the Blue Ridge Parkway. And I think I have a picture of a view here I want to show you. Okay, see, I think this Taylor Mountains overlook, but if not, in just another couple miles, you've got Harvey's Knob overlook, and there's a possibility that could be it too. And then actually, then the trail kind of through here is not too bad, not super demanding, but something was going on with me that day. I wasn't going to go. I was going to try and get to maybe Cove Mountain for the night, but I kind of got here and went down for a late lunch, and actually went down the point to the shelter and also to get some water. And I got down there, and honestly, I never left. I felt kind of crappy. Not sure what was going on. A little chilled. It wasn't that cold, but I remember putting my puffy on. And anyway, this might constitute perhaps a scary moment on the trail for me. I went to the privy, and I'm kind of an arachnophobe. Okay, so I went to the privy, and this is a big privy. It was one that you could actually sleep in these. And they're getting to some privies now that are actually more like outhouses that are dug down, and they got the ventilation stuff. A lot of times, what you see in the parks, you know, and you know, this one in bad weather, you could really take shelter in it if you had to. But I walked in and turned around, and this is what I saw. Okay, that was one big spider. If I were to take a $1 bill and put it up next to it, which I wouldn't do out of fear that it would jump on me, it's actually bigger than a $1 bill. And as scary as that was, trying to deal with that in the outhouse, as you know, I could keep my eye on it while I was doing my business. But when it came time to go back in the next morning before I left, and it wasn't there, there's no way I was going to sit on that John. So I went out and did my cat hole. All right, coming up out of there, you got to get a little bit of a climb, and you come up once again. You come back up to the parkway, and there's some really cool peaks of Otter and Mills Gap that kind of come next. I'll show them to you. I think if I remember right, the peaks of Otter, you're looking out to the east, and then for the Mills Gap, you're looking out to the west. And I'll just throw those two pictures in now. Okay, so as we continue out, we're going to come. You kind of back into the AT. You're coming back out to the road again. You know, you're going back in. You're climbing up some hills. You know, you're descending back down to where some shelter areas are. You're kind of scooting the Blue Ridge Parkway, and for the next while, you actually have the sound of road noise quite a bit. And then I started down to Jennings Creek and got down here about noon. And you notice that I've got another circle, which means I stayed the night there. So what's going on? So I didn't feel good, stopped early here, didn't feel really great, stopped early here, and now that I start pondering about it, I'm thinking that I may have a little bit of Virginia blues going on. What happened was I was coming down here, there was a girl hiking up the trail to put some signs saying Trail Magic at Jennings Creek. Down here at Jennings Creek, there's a swimming hole. There's a lot of good campsites. You've got actually a campground where you can do a resupply, although the people went down there to resupply where I guess it was not a lot, very expensive, and found it very hard to get to kind of hitchhike back. My impression was either somebody around there wasn't too friendly. It's either the campground folks weren't friendly, or maybe it was the locals weren't all that friendly towards hikers. I can't quite remember, but they had some trail magic going on, so I was just going to maybe take an hour, but then they started talking, and more people started showing up, and then they started talking about, hey, we've actually going to do supper tonight, and they had some pretty good stuff. They were going to do some Dutch oven cooking, and they had breakfast for the next morning, and So a bunch of us actually decided to kind of stop and stay. Now I've got a couple of photographs here. One of them is the trail magic that kind of happened right there at the trailhead, and then eventually we moved into the woods, into the camp area, and set up our campsites. And one of the things in the second photograph I want you to notice that here it is June in Virginia, and in the morning I have my puffy jacket on. Okay, probably a good reason if you want a little gear advice is just keep your puffy jacket and never send it home, because I already sent all my winter gear home, but I kept my puffy, and I was still using it on occasion. Okay, and that's an example of that. Now, there is one regret about staying at Jennings Creek, and that's I missed the experience of the Bryant Ridge Shelter. It's a really cool shelter. It's quite big, sleeps 20, multi-levels. Not a lot of great tent sites right around there, although there might be some kind of out away from the trail. But the reason I was disappointed is you might remember me telling you once about Southpaw and Awak. Excuse me, Iwak. And Iwak actually took us up to the trailhead again in Virginia when I started in April back in 2017. Really good friends. They were the ones that I met just prior to going up to Rowan High Knob, and then we stayed the night down in at the barn there in Tennessee, on the Tennessee North Carolina line, and just kind of chilled out with trail magic that night. And it's just one of those real good experiences on the trail. And so I kind of missed them because they had gotten ahead of me. Well, they had gotten off at Jennings Creek and had jumped up to Waynesboro, which is where Iwak is from, and had taken some time off, with her husband. And then they had hiked southbound so they could run into all the people that they knew on the trail that were ahead and behind them. And I was the last person on the list of people they were hoping to see. And I met them. Actually, they were climbing up, and I was ascending down through here. And I thought we took a selfie with them, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. So I must have thought I'd hit the camera thing and to activate the camera, and it didn't work. And so I have no picture of them. Unfortunately, I was really sad about that. That was the last time I saw Southpaw. Of course, I saw Iwak again the next year. But anyway, they were hiking up, and they were glad to see me. They had a ride waiting for them at Jennings Creek, and if I had gone to the shelter that night, I would have been down there with them and would have been able to have a much longer commune and meet and greet with them, and would have been one of those really cool experiences. So let me show you a picture of what the shelter looks like. Okay, so from the Bryant Ridge Shelter, I stopped there for lunch. I continued, and probably I stopped here at the Cornelius Creek Shelter. At first, when I got there, I was the only one. There was really good water there, and there was a place downstream of where you get water, a nice little pool. And I threw my town clothes on, took my hiking clothes down, and washed them out. Came back and hung them on a line. Starting to get at that time of year when the sweat is starting to smell like ammonia, which is a warning sign because that means you're metabolizing your own body's protein. So that was telling me I wasn't getting enough protein in my diet, and that acrid smell was really hard to sleep with. So I went down, washed my clothes out, and then hung them up. Let's see. The next day, let's see. This was kind of a really cool hike. As we started heading up through this apple orchard falls, and across the trail, and then up Apple Orchard Mountain, there was a lot of defoliating going on from these caterpillars that were just eating the canopy alive and then lowering themselves to the ground. So as you're hiking through it, I was constantly taking my trekking poles and trying to get these caterpillars out of the way. And I still, every time I stopped, I had them all over me. I'm going to show you a picture of this FAA tower. It's an en route air traffic control center, so so the reason it's sitting on top of the mountain is because it looks out over huge amounts of territory, and so it's kind of like the handoff facility. So you come out of an airport, and you're at the airport for a while at the tower, and then you go to the local radar, and then eventually you get passed off to the en route radar guys, and that's these guys sitting up in the tower. Now this picture that I'm going to take was probably taken Oh, probably over in here somewhere. Maybe climbing up here because I was able to look across the valley and could get a good picture of it. I got some video of it, but here there's an actual picture I'll throw in. And then from there, there's the really famous guillotine. And I've got 3 photographs of the guillotine, and you get the trail goes actually right under the guillotine. And I'll go ahead and throw those in now. Okay, I don't remember if I stopped by the shelter or not on the way in, to be honest with you. It appears to be pretty close to the trail. It doesn't tell you there's a distance off trail, so I just don't remember it. Can't really give any intel on that. Start hiking back down. Of course, you're coming out once again. There's another overlook, a Thunder Ridge. And I thought this was a really cool one, to be honest with you, a cool outlook. So I took a picture of it, and I'll insert it here. Okay, so as we are hiking and climbing, we're actually starting a very gradual descent here. Okay, we're heading down towards the James River. We got to cross the James River, which is a pretty big river. Maybe not so much where it's at where we're going to cross it, versus down in where it empties out into the Chesapeake, where it's a massive river. This one has the longest suspension bridge for the trail, specifically for the AT on the AT. Anyway, so we're going to start this gradual descent, and you got, sorry about the name, it's High Cock, and this was a brutal climb up, and this was a punishing descent down here to Marble Springs, a punishing descent. And because there was a lot of water around here, the mosquitoes were just atrocious down in here. A lot of great campsites. We actually had quite a few campers down here. I ran into, I think it was Jake and Jacob, or it was Jacob of Jake and Jacob. I can't remember. One of them had gotten off the trail. The other was there. This is the last time I saw him. And this is where I thought I lost my wedding ring. It was gone. It was on my finger. I haven't had everybody in the camp. We were all walking around looking for it. We all went down to the place where I got water to see if everybody was really nice about helping me try and find my wedding ring. But it was nowhere to be found. There was some deer that came down, and one of them actually followed me down the trail to the water source. I thought that was pretty interesting. Somebody said we ought to change my trail name from Big Bird to Deer Whisperer or something. But this deer had followed me down. The next morning, when I got my the liner out of my pack to brush some leaves out of it, I found my ring down in my liner. I'd lost so much weight that it actually had fallen off of my finger while I was reaching down in the bag getting something out, and it had fallen off. So I recovered my wedding ring, which was kind of nice. And from here now, this next day, the trail, and of course notice there's these hints here. There's poor cell phone reception. So if you're going to call ahead to get a ride, it's good to call before you get down there. And once again, this was actually a very pleasant hike, a little bit of a climb, and then once I said somewhere over in here, I think I could look back. Maybe it was here I looked back, because I think it was that next day. I think here is when I looked back and got a picture of the FAA tower. Once again, continue to descend, continue to drop, and let's see, 780. On the flip side here, yeah. There is a Matt's Creek shelters. This is kind of close to the road, so it's used a lot by locals, and you could tell it's kind of a worn area. And then the knives basically walk along the river. Okay, this is all kind of a river walk, and then you get to the James River Bridge, and it tells you it's the longest foot use only bridge on the AT. This is where you see a lot of people, it's become tradition that you jump off into the water. This is the James River Bridge. And from the shelter all the way down, there were warning signs all over the place saying, you know, don't do it, it's dangerous, people have lost their lives, it's against this city code and this county code and this state law and all this kind of stuff. And of course, I'm a rule follower, so I kind of thought, oh boy, I guess I won't be jumping off the bridge into the water. And I got down there and I looked at it, and I was the only one there, and I kind of waited around a little bit, nobody came. I thought, well, okay, I do risk manage, and I'm not going to jump off of the James River Bridge if nobody's around. So it's kind of dangerous if I don't, in case something happens, there's nobody there to help me. So I bypassed and I didn't do that. Now I walk across the James River Bridge, and I've got a picture of me on the bridge, and notice that this is a picture of me on the bridge going back the other direction, and I'm on the middle of the bridge. So as much bridge as you see in the photograph, there's that much bridge back behind me. Okay, Glasgow is when you come down off the James River Bridge, there's a bunch of parking there because it's a big area for people to I guess to park, to hit the AT both north and south. And there's a lot of whitewater type kayaking in this area that people do, or maybe not quite so much whitewater kayaking, but just kayaking. And so there's a lot of traffic on this road, and so it's actually a very, very good place to hitchhike. And notice that it's about 6 miles. It's about 6 miles into town. And if you look on the info, let's see if it's on this page for Glasgow. Town Hall, Grocery Express, Natural Bridge. Let's see. Does it talk about it? But maybe it's on here. Yeah. Free town-provided pavilion, tenting, privy, and hot showers. And the AT's down here, and this is the road that you're hitchhiking on to come in to town. Okay. Now, this is a foot stomp warning. If you don't get anything out of this video today, this is the most important thing. Do not walk on this road. This road has no shoulder. It drops off on one side, cliffs on the other side, sharp hairpin turns, speeding vehicles. You will hit and you will get killed. Do not walk on this road. And don't think you can start walking on this road and then somebody will stop and pick you up, because there is no place for anybody to safely stop. Now this is a straight shot here, but down the rest of it that's not on the map, nobody's going to stop and pick you up. It's too dangerous for anybody to stop there. Okay. Matter of fact, the guy that picked me up when I did hitchhike, they came across some friends that were broken down, and we had to go quite a ways to find a place to turn and come back, and it was scary. We thought we were all going to just get hit and sideswiped. So don't even try and walk this 6 miles. Just hitch a ride. Just sit down there by the bridge. There's plenty of people coming and going out of the parking lot. You're bound to get a ride back. If they drop you off here, don't worry. It's within sight of the stop and go as far as distance goes, and you can very easily just walk into town. This pavilion actually it's behind the pizza, and here's the laundry right here. So you walk to the laundry, you got pizza, you've got groceries, you got a Dollar General. It's all right there. And in this area there's a pavilion that has like bunks, so you can actually bunk in it like you would in a shelter. Okay, plenty of tent camping, plenty of trees for hammocking, and they have an outdoor hot shower. So it's like it's kind of it's open air in the sense there's no roof on it. Okay, but it has 4 sides, but that 4th side is kind of staggered, so you kind of come in at an angle. So it's really hard to actually look in there and see in the shower, but you can see people's feet underneath, so you can tell somebody's in it. It runs on a Renai, so it's a constant hot water. So you can just take the longest, hottest shower you want. It's very nice, and they've got water there. So I came in, I did my resupply, I stayed one night, did my laundry, and got up, had a lazy morning. Went over and had breakfast, I think, or maybe actually I had lunch. Maybe I left late enough that I actually went and had lunch that day, or maybe it was an early. I can't remember for sure. Maybe it was breakfast, but it was late. It was a nice lazy get up morning to go, and I had decided, okay, I'll hike back out here so I have a better chance of hitchhiking. And while I was just walking along the road right through here, A lady stopped and said, "Hey, you heading back to the trail? I'm going that way." And so she took me down to the trail. I didn't have to put up my thumb. So that worked out real well. So highly recommend going into Glasgow. Your next opportunity to resupply is oh shoot, it's the name's escaping me here. It's Buena Vista. Okay. And so what I did is I went, you know what? I'm tired of carrying all this weight. I did 2 days, and I'm going to hike to Buena Vista and resupply. May have been a bad decision on my part, but I got lucky. I got some trail help from a subscriber who gave me some information I didn't have, and it all worked out. And I'll share that with you on the next video. But until then, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section below, and I'll answer them during my Q&A. Thanks, everybody. Bye.